everybody listening to Cross Border Talks. This is another edition of our podcasts, our cross border conversations about politics, social life, culture, and everything that connects or divides people. And today we are going to discuss newest events in Bulgaria together with Vladimir Mitev, who is the co founder of Cross Border Talks project and who is a journalist knowledgeable about what is going on in his country. My name is Małgorzata Kulbaczewska-Figat. I am connecting with you from Katowice, Poland. And I can't help thinking at this point about my travel to Bulgaria that happened only 1 year ago. I reported then from Bulgaria before the parliamentary elections. I remember the feeling of stagnation and the feeling that political game is something very remote from the ordinary people's problems. And now Bulgarians are going to vote again in just a few months. Vladimir, hello. Thank you for accepting my idea for having this conversation and tell us what happened.
Various things happen at the same time, and I think if we go into great detail, we may lose some maybe grander story, but neither the grander story is sufficiently clear. Let's say that Bulgaria will have now an interim government after the previous coalition government between the two anti-corruption formations. We continue the change in democratic Bulgaria on one hand, and GERB said the party of Boyko Borisov fell apart. Um, so it was a government which also in many ways had the support in parliament by the Turkish minority party, which is also led by an important businessman who with influential in different state institutions, who is called Delan Peevski. So this is the, let's say, one moment of Bulgarian political life. What now happens or follows, I think, will be some kind of uh, rearrangement of the ministerial positions of different balances, as we have interim government led by Dimitar Glavchev, who came from most recently he was in the court of audit, but he was previously also member of parliament from the party of GERB, and this interim government should organize um, parliamentary elections, which will be made together with the European Parliament elections in June. And after that, we will have, I, I guess, obviously, another rearrangement of the ministerial positions and all the positions, maybe in regulatory commissions, etc. So, if I have to look at some great picture, maybe it is that Bulgarian state, uh, I guess, even if we are not clear who is exactly, what is the place from which it is governed or who takes exactly the decisions, but let's say the Bulgarian state is a subject of international relations. It constantly sets its political enforcers or people who act politically in accordance with various internal and external forces. So we just have this process now.
The coalition between the two anti corruption parties that you named, We Continue the Change and Democratic Bulgaria, and the GERB party, seemed very improbable from the very beginning. After all, the corruption fighters and the parties that grew after the mass anti corruption protests united with a party which is a symbol of corruption to many observers of Bulgarian politics. Why this coalition fell apart in the end? What were the reasons? Internal, external, personal, perhaps? And what legacy is left after this government?
Um, I I'm not sure a specific reason can be pointed out as the most important. I guess one way to look at this falling apart is that on the EU level, Germany and France have greater difficulties to understand and move together in the same direction, the European Union. And we have to bear in mind that in Bulgaria, GERB is a party which has traditional ties, of course, to various forces in the European Union, but mostly to the party of European Popular Party or People's Party, and we know that it is generally dominated by the German conservative right formations. And on the other hand, the party continued to change, um, leaves some impression that might be mm, somehow open to the Macron tendency in the European Union. That might be one way to look at them, the proxy theory, let's say. If the big brothers can't agree, maybe also the smaller brothers can't agree. Maybe there are also other ways to look. Of course, there are always battles for resources and positions in Bulgaria. The formal reason for this lack of success to make the rotational government um, was pointed out as some um, conflict over positions of ministers, and there have been also reported clashes over people who are to be appointed as directors of the regulatory commissions. So that might be also another reason. You mentioned personal, maybe that could be also seen as some kind of a reason, given that we had the impression that there is some kind of conflict between the former Minister of Finance in the government, Denkov, Asen Vasiliev, and Boyko Borisov, the former Prime Minister, who is the leader of GERB. Maybe the, maybe it has not been very clearly articulated what is the clash about, but let me say that Asen Vasiliev had a very active position, really confronting certain interests. For example, he put a tax on the transit of Russian gas through Bulgarian territory towards Serbia and Hungary, and only abolished it after Hungary threatened to block Bulgaria's accession to Schengen. Asen Vasiliev also, as a Minister of Finance, it was reported that some controls in the Austrian shops or uh, chains of magazines of shops was done after the beginning of the new year, and also he ordered, as it was also discussed in Bulgarian media, greater control on Bulgarian-Romanian border on all trucks who transport goods towards Austria. And I give all these examples to show that Asen Vasiliev, in my view, has certain political will to act. Many people have different backings, international, local, but very few people in Bulgarian politics really act and do something and dare to confront some interests. I don't say whether his act has been obligatory good or bad, but I just noticed that he was one person who had subjectivity. He had the ability to act, and he acted in some cases. And Another reason or another sign that he maybe disturbed some order was that there were some investigations against him, and even now in these days, literally in this week, which is the first week of April, there was a scandal in which the secret services of Bulgaria and anti-corruption institution um, made searches in the customs agency director, who is subordinated to Asen Vasiliev, and She was accused of doing contraband. On her own turn, she said that she had a conflict with the current director of the Bulgarian Secret Services, DANS, previously when she was also working for this security institution. So I would say that there seems to be something related to the person of Asen Vasilev who apparently dared to confront certain interests, and there was reaction to that.
You said that a person who can be named one of the faces of change in Bulgaria, a person who had agency and who had quality to act and not only speak, is now coming under fire. And at the same time, a person who used to be a member of parliament for GERB, for Boyko Borisov's party, is becoming the head of the caretaker government. Does it mean that Bulgarians should brace for return for Borko Borisov and his old practices of power, and that the project of change, led by Western educated, well off city based people, is just reaching its end?
Um, I need some time to pass in order to make a judgment whether the project of change, this party which called itself Change Continues, really will continue doing its change. Um, they they had some form of cooperation with GERB for the last um, let's say maybe 10 months, and on one hand they had a lot of ministers and could do some political action if they want. On the other hand, we saw that the judicial reform, which uh, was discussed a lot, as far as I see, it led to some constitutional changes which were recently contested because of maybe some elements of them who were not well thought out. On the other hand, we see that the former eh, prosecutor director, chief prosecutor, was made to leave office, but a new one who is said by many people, widely discussed in Bulgarian media, to be somehow suitable for Boyko Borisov is in his position. So I have the feeling that the change continues had a lot of rhetoric, a lot of words. So far, we still still remains to see how exactly their change would be done and what exactly it means. I think they fail to explain in really a lot of detail what it means. Sometimes it means to be anti Borisov, sometimes it means to be together with him. I think some people or many of their voters, or at least some of their voters, don't understand very well this difficulty of doing change in Bulgaria. And I have the feeling that change can be done also by other forces. And we really lack a lot of deep depth in our understanding of Bulgarian society and change in it. And I believe even maybe media who deal with Bulgaria, international media, if you wish, cross-border talks or other media, uh, should not be satisfied with just uh, first level labels like anti-corruption or oligarchs, etc. As we see in this government, which existed until recently, relations between our political allies or economic allies are much more complex. We had a situation in 2022 when Kirill Petkov, the Prime Minister of Bulgaria, when he was under pressure to show he does some change, he literally arrested Boyko Borisov. So for 24 hours or something like that, Borisov uh, was, uh, let's say, in the state of being arrested. And on the other hand, we saw that just in 2023, until today. Boyko Borisov and Kirill Petkov were doing together laws and distributing the portions of power between their political allies. I think really, if somebody wants to do change in Bulgaria, he needs more complex thinking.
A very ambitious task you put before anybody who would like to do something in Bulgarian politics. We'll return to this issue of change in the last question of the talk, but before, I'd like to have a look on this caretaker government that was sworn in, that was presented on the day when we are recording the talk. Is there somebody interesting in the new team?
Um, at first sight, I wouldn't say there is really a star in this government. Um, I still think it's a government which is some kind of mixture, as far as I understand, because uh, the prime minister, as I said, has some past association with GERB, but on the other hand, uh, as far as I learned from Bulgarian media, three ministers from the former government, which was dominated by We Continue the Change and Democratic Bulgaria, will still remain in the current government. I think Bulgarian political elites are constantly rearranging their balances internally, and they are, I think, my theory is that in many cases they act with attention towards the international environment, and at least I try to make sense through the international context. I'm not sure how exactly to interpret this inability to form a government right now, to form a rotational government. So the agreement between GERB and We Continue the Change and Democratic Bulgaria failed. I think maybe on EU level there is some lack of clarity in what direction should the things go. Maybe also other important things should be probably related to dynamics of war in Ukraine or other issues. Um, but I really don't see this government as a government which will do a lot. It should have a relatively short life, because previously we had a moment when, after the fall of Petkov government, there was a long period in which an interim government led by or influenced by Rumen Radev, the president, were ruling the country. So this situation won't the change continues, and Democratic Bulgaria wanted to eliminate this possibility of uh, let's say presidential governments who are interim governments but take important decisions such as international contracts or other things. And I think now that these constitutional changes regarding the interim governments have been made, we shouldn't expect really this government to be an important force in any direction. Of course, that's my guess. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think the idea of this government is again to have some balance of forces, maybe to prepare the elections, and then we have maybe some new balance, which should be maybe also taking into consideration possible changes in the world related to European elections and to American elections.
Okay. So, in the final question, I'd like to come back to the issue of change, but a real change, not a realignment or a new exchange of influence and important posts. Bulgaria is a country that needs a social change, and a change in many ways. That is an impression with which I always leave Bulgaria after visiting this country, or I think that many international observers would share this impression, and many Bulgarians as well, including people with whom I could talk last year during my visit. However, you said that for a real change, you need complex thinking. And I'm not even suggesting that such complex thinking could emerge during this short pre electoral campaign that you will again live through in Bulgaria. So, from where could the change emerge? And who could build and who could be the change in Bulgaria?
Um, in my view, people could be the change. Of course, that is maybe naive or a little bit stupid to be said in this way. Maybe sounds very simplistic, but I really um, don't want to rely on the political parties. Political parties in Bulgaria are in a great crisis. I'm not sure they even exist. I mean, I'm not aware of, many parties in around the world in Europe have internal life, like they have different events internally, they have discussions, they have internal competition, etc. I'm not sure Bulgarian parties have something like that. As far as I read the news, we have a lot of parties of leader type of parties. So we have leaders. Maybe there are different currents in some of the biggest parties, but in any case, there is some understanding that many parties really may even lack structures, and they are just some formations, some machines, let's say, for turning money into power and power into money, and having political activity without really allowing common people, let's say, even if that maybe is not a good term, to grow and do something on their own. And also, I think it's obvious, especially in recent local elections or in other cases, how Bulgarian parties, if they really have some potential for power, they also represent certain economic interests that exist in Bulgaria, and we have basically competition of different types of economic interests through the parties. And once again, also on this ground, we don't really see people who don't have businesses or don't have financial resources to grow a lot in Bulgarian politics. So I would say that European Union, for example, if we imagine that European Union is an agent of change within its territory, I believe European Union should find ways how the European money reach uh, deeper into Bulgarian society, how uh, the common man or some people who are, let's say, grassroots level can have certain agency, and I somehow see change coming at this level from these people. I know it may be very naive because common people are also often people who work and employee people, maybe, or maybe have all types of health issues or so personal issues, etc. So of course, common people are not trained to be leaders or are not trained to be agents of change. But in spite of that, I really don't see any other way right now to really offer something new in Bulgarian society and politics, because what we have is just accumulation of these uh, interests, political power, economic power. We just have some hierarchies in which the people on the top have accumulation of these things, and these people on the top rotate, and that is our system. And as I said, a truly democratic system should find way how people who don't have money or don't have resources to be also sufficiently maybe educated or sufficiently integrate to give integrity, and to be able to maybe struggle or fight or offer something of their own. So for me, as I said in the beginning, change should be in the people, from the people, by the people. And of course, I understand that every society, especially capitalistic society, has specifics, and as it is said in some theories, there is base, there is superstructure. I understand that, but in spite of that, you asked me about change. So for me, change should be something which everyone should be able to do and realize and understand and fight for.
Okay, thank you for this definition. I can only add from my side that if people who are not businessmen, if people who do not have wealth right now enter politics and articulate their needs, not the needs of business, if they articulate their point of view, this will be already a kind of a change. Because, as somebody told me during my previous visit in Bulgaria, and you confirmed in one of our talks about Bulgaria, uh, those who are in politics in Bulgaria are mainly those who have money. So money is reproducing itself through politics, and then the politicians work how to generate even more money, more or less. Well, thank you for this conversation. I hope that it is a little bit more clear to our listeners what is happening in Bulgaria, a country that has gone through a lot of snap elections recently and will be going through another snap election. And unfortunately, this snap election will not bring quality change in politics, but rather another realignment. I think this could be a thesis we can agree upon. Thank you, Vladimir, again. And everybody listening to us, please don't forget to subscribe to Cross Border Talks. We are present on different platforms: YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, also, most important, social media. So stay with us there not to lose any material we publish. Thank you very much and have a nice day.